How have you been getting on with your mini abstracts? I have some more inspiration and a mini abstract challenge for you today that I hope is going to motivate your art for this week. So I introduced this exercise in my art video last week, and it's actually one that I talk about and give step-by-steps for in my Get Creating book. And I've already shared a little on why I like doing these types of exercises and why I think they're really useful and can really help in your art. So if you missed that video, I will put a link below in the description for it, as well as a link to all the products that I'm using today. Now this week I thought I would share the process of another mini abstract, but let's change this one up a little bit and let's go for a challenge, something that I hope will inspire you to do a mini abstract too. So are you up for it? Do you want a mini abstract challenge? Now the challenge, I'm going to base it around colours. So if you're needing a bit of colour inspiration, then this is a really handy trick and something you can use to inspire your work or just get you started. So the particular palette that we're going to use, I want you to either pick a hot colour palette or a cold colour palette, and then pick a contrasting colour from the other colour family. So if you picked a hot colour palette, then you're going to pick a cold colour to contrast it, and vice versa. So to get yourself started, basically pick a couple of colours before you get going that are either from the hot or the cold colour family. So I've gone with cold for mine, and my main colour is going to be blue. Then pick yourself a single colour that you're going to use sparingly, but this time pick it from the opposite temperature colour family. So for my piece, I've got my cold blues, and then I'm going to contrast it with a yellow, which is more of a hotter colour. Now this particular exercise, there's another version of this that you could also try out as well. So here's some more inspiration to help you with your colour combining and your mini abstracts as well. How about just going for a complementary colour? Colours that sit opposite each other on the colour wheel. So for instance, my blue, the complementary colour to blue is orange. So instead of using the yellow as my contrasting colour for my blues, I could have used orange today. So that's another way of looking at this colour combining that I hope you'll have fun with. You could probably do all of them and just do an abstract with all of them and see which ones you like best. Now the other colours that you can use in this are neutrals like blacks, whites and greys. So even though I've just picked blue as my main colour, they are actually two very different blues, so they work quite nicely as contrasts in their own little colour bubble. And you can watch to see how I work my main cold colours together and then how I add in my warm colour contrast in this mini abstract. And there's just so many ways that you could do this, so don't feel restricted and just go for it. And remember, you don't have to do the same as me, you don't have to use the same colours, you don't have to use the same marks. This mini abstract exercise is all about discovering your own mark making, your own likes, your own dislikes, your own colour palettes. So pick things that you really want to use today and you really want to just experiment with. Now when I'm doing these mini abstracts, I really try hard to stay in the moment and to work more on impulse than planning. You can do these, you can easily plan these if you want, that's entirely up to you. If you prefer to do that, then go ahead and plan them. But for me, these mini abstracts are much more about listening to what my gut is telling me to do and where it wants to go next. So it's very reactive and I'm not really sure where the abstract will go, but it is so mini that it doesn't really take that long before it feels finished to me. And I enjoy the sort of minimalist feel of these pieces, but again, you don't have to stick with that yourself. Even though we're working on a very small piece of paper, you could just cover the whole thing and do whatever you liked with it. You could spend a long time on it, you could spend a short amount of time on it, whatever feels right for you. Now for my piece today, there's something about the rhythm in it that I really like. And there's both a symmetry and an asymmetric symmetry in this piece today. And down to the sort of just the different elements that I've used, the different ways I've added in some mark making. And then in the whole piece as well, you can see some of the symmetry, some of the asymmetric symmetry that's going on there. And I think I really like that about this piece, but you'll see that more when we get to the end. And as this piece grew, my ideas about it grew too, and I changed up layers as I went along. So this is part of what I was talking about, being more reactive to it. For example, I extended the darker blue area after adding the splatter texture. So I'd already put down the dots, I put down some dark blue, I added the splatter, and then I was like, I think actually I needed to make the darker blue a bigger part of the dot pattern. And I wasn't worried about changing up the shapes of those dots. It was just another way that the details in this piece sort of reacted and changed as I went along. I also quite like the way that the brush line tails off or kind of feathers on the bottom right hand side, and how that adds another contrast to the kind of lines and the block colours that are here in this piece. And just as with last week's piece, I'm using acrylic paint in 3 different ways. So I've got neat paint from a tube, I've got watered down paint, but then I've also got the acrylic ink in my paint pens. And adding more pattern detail with the neutral colour is a really great way to add texture and interest, but without having to introduce another active colour. Because we picked our colours at the beginning and we went with a very particular colour palette. So the white and the black, is a no pressure way of adding more details without having to worry about putting in a different colour and just shifting the way this colour combination works. And what I haven't mentioned is that one of my blue colours is actually an iridescent, so there's another texture layer sort of going on here, and that adds to the piece as well. So it actually doesn't take that much to add a lot of texture and interest to your mini abstracts. I've only used a very small amount of product, but there's quite a lot to look at. So have a real play with your shapes, your brushes, what kind of brush marks you can get. Try feathering some of your layers, try adding them as blocks, try adding the paint thickly or thinly, that's going to change the look as well. And if you can add a lot of interest with just a few colours, less than a handful of colours, and just a few small marks, imagine what you're going to do with a larger colour palette and on a larger surface. So have lots of fun playing with this one, have loads of fun picking out your colour palettes. I would love to see it all, so do share with me on Instagram. I would be happy to come over and have a look. So don't forget to play with the colour challenge today, and I look forward to seeing your hot colour palettes with cold contrasts, or your cold colour palette with hot contrasts. And if you're looking for some more video inspiration for other mixed media art, then watch these videos next, and I'll see you there.